what's the most common issue you see men facing that you've seen like over the last, 40, 50 years?
I think it presents as a struggle with the relationships, usually primary relationships, but you could say other relationships, professional and kids and even friends sometimes. But underneath that is how we weren't trained to connect, particularly as men, because we have a unique way of connecting. When we can find that way for ourselves, our stress goes down and the depths of our connections increase.
Hmm. And does that normally equate to men feeling more lonely? Because you see that talked about a lot. Is that something you've seen a lot as well?
Yeah, guys don't usually come and say, "Oh, I'm lonely," because
Right.
that's not a masculine thing, right? But and I'm sure see this too, as we get older, we tend to have less and less serious friends. We might have acquaintances, but very few guys have the depths of friendships that they had when they were in school or maybe the military or maybe playing sports. And so we don't have that. We have acquaintances, we have guys we work with. So in that sense, we're lonely, and often, and the research supports this, is our best friend is our partner. So if that relationship is under strain or we don't have one or we lost
Mm,
it, a guy really feels lost and truly lonely.
yeah. I actually was thinking about this quite a lot recently, Owen, because this episode will come out and I'll have been married. But by when we're recording this, it's
Oh,
September 16th and I'm getting married on September 22nd. So over the
congratulations.
last, thank you so much. Like, so over the last, like, 14 months since I got engaged to my soon to be wife, I'm thinking about who I want to invite. Like, what friends, because I've been in a lot of different spheres, professional wrestling, baseball, and in those sort of dynamics you feel like you create close friendships, but really
Mhm.
when you start to think about it, like you're saying, is those friendships were based on proximity, and they were also based on drinking, and they were also based on doing some of these other activities which make you feel like you're close to someone, but really when you're sober or where you're a long distance away from them, are you actually telling them what's going on in your life? Are those someone you would call when like shit hits the fan, or like you need some help, or you just need to talk something through, or you like want to bounce back, and then you think, okay, no, actually no, I wouldn't. Like, I like that guy, he's cool.
Mhm.
Like, if I was still drinking like I was in college, which I'm not anymore, I would call him for a sweet time. But I actually have no idea what we would talk about if we just sat and had coffee for 2 hours. And so I was really starting to play that through my mind. And then again, you come up with like, I'm fortunate I have like, 6 or 7 groomsmen that I like really feel like
Mm.
I'm closely connected to. But those relationships are tough too because we live far away. Everyone's got kids now. And so you sort of put yourself in a strain when you try to have too many close relationships, when really if you focused on having like 1 to 4, those relationships could probably, not probably, are going to be the most impactful things in your whole entire life. Um,
Yeah, and I think you're right on with all that. And there's great questions that guys usually don't ask, and if they do, they don't share them with others like you just did. um, that really got me into working with men, particularly with men 30 years ago and starting my first men's group because, I wanted those kinds of relationships. And if I didn't have them and I didn't see myself getting them, it was like, all right, what can I do to create that? And so I said, all right, I'll create a men's group. And I honed that model over the years where, yeah, we have those kinds of relationships where, as one of my old friends used to say, I have someone to call at 2 o'clock in the morning if something falls apart or if I want to celebrate something.
mm,
Um, and most guys don't have that. And you touched on something else that's really true for guys is that we tend to have relationships around doing something, which is not bad. But yeah, and doing a group, where you sit with a group of guys, you're doing something, but that's a context or a venue that's a little more intimate and set up for that. Where women can just sit down and start a relationship or start a deep conversation pretty naturally. Where we might both face the TV together or play a sports together or whatever, but rarely do we sit together just to have, as you described, a more personal, intimate, or vulnerable conversation.